Attributes of the unusually mature. I do not come to correct you, nor to recruit you, nor to place a crown where a spine still forms. I come as one who has watched souls ripen, not by time, but by pressure, by listening, by refusing to abandon themselves when it would have been easier to disappear. There are many who age, there are fewer who mature, and rarer still are those who mature without becoming brittle, arrogant, or cruel. These are the unusually mature. They do not announce themselves. They do not posture. They do not speak in slogans. They do not rush to teach. They have learned something far more difficult. They have learned how to remain intact while perceiving deeply. They no longer need to be right in order to be real. The unusually mature have passed through the furnace of being misunderstood and survived without calcifying. They know truth does not require agreement. Clarity does not require applause. Reality does not improve by force. They will let others misunderstand them without scrambling to explain, because they know explanation offered too early becomes distortion. They do not argue with projections. They wait for readiness. And if readiness never comes, they do not wither. They have already stood alone long enough to know it is survivable. They can hold paradox without demanding resolution. Immaturity seeks certainty. Maturity tolerates ambiguity. Unusual maturity befriends contradiction. These ones know you can be gentle and fierce without splitting. You can forgive without reconciling. You can love humanity while declining intimacy with dysfunction. You can honor tradition while refusing its distortions. They do not collapse paradoxes into platitudes. They let opposing truths stand like twin pillars and walk between them without rushing to knock one down. This is not confusion. It is structural strength. They no longer perform goodness. They have learned, often painfully, that performative virtue is not virtue at all. They do not signal purity. They do not posture morality. They do not weaponize kindness. Their goodness is quiet, sometimes inconvenient, occasionally misunderstood. They will say no when saying yes would look holy. They will remain silent when speaking would feel righteous. They will withdraw when staying would create dependence. Their ethics are internal, not crowdsourced. They answer to something older than approval. They understand that some truths must be timed. The immature believe truth must always be spoken. The unusually mature know truth must be received. They have seen what happens when revelation is given without containment. Minds fracture, egos inflate, fear masquerades as awakening. So they do not cast pearls into nervous systems that cannot digest them. This is not elitism. This is compassion informed by consequence. They speak differently to different people, not because truth changes, but because listening does. They are no longer seduced by intensity. Intensity feels like depth to the unseasoned. The unusually mature have already walked through fire and learned heat alone does not purify. Overwhelm is not transcendence. Chaos is not inherently holy. They do not chase peak states. They do not romanticize breakdowns. They do not confuse suffering with wisdom. They choose integration over spectacle. They value what lasts. They know the difference between being open and being exposed. Immaturity overshares. Woundedness confesses compulsively. Unusual maturity discerns. They understand not everyone deserves access. Not every story needs daylight. Some experiences are sacred precisely because they are protected. They do not confuse transparency with health. They curate their vulnerability, not to deceive, but to preserve coherence. This is not hiding. This is sovereignty. They have befriended their shadow without letting it drive. They have looked at what frightens them about themselves and did not flinch. They have acknowledged the capacity for harm, felt the pull of power, recognized their own abyss, and instead of denying it or indulging it, they integrated it. This grants them a particular gentleness. They do not panic at darkness in others. They do not rush to condemn. They do not moralize what they have already metabolized. They know what humans are capable of because they have been honest about themselves. They do not need to be seen to continue. This is perhaps the clearest marker. The unusually mature will continue even if no one claps, no one understands, no one remembers their name. They have already died to the fantasy of recognition. What remains is devotion, not to outcome, but to alignment. They do the work because it is theirs to do. They refuse to exploit mystery. They could impress, they could mystify, they could dazzle, but they do not. They understand that mystery is not a tool, it is a threshold. They will not use fear to command, secrecy to inflate importance, or awe to extract loyalty. They honor mystery by not selling it cheap. They would rather be overlooked than become a distortion. They can sit with another without trying to fix them. This alone disqualifies many who claim wisdom. The unusually mature do not rush to heal. They do not prescribe prematurely. They do not make others projects. They sit. They witness. They allow someone to arrive at themselves, even if it takes longer than comfort allows. This is not passivity. It is respect. They trust the intelligence moving through another being. They have made peace with being too much for some. They remember the years of being told to quiet down, to simplify, conform, explain less, be more normal, and they have tried, until they realized that shrinking did not create connection, it created absence. So they stopped contorting. They did not become louder, they became truer. Those who resonate stay, those who cannot drift away. This is not rejection. It is resonance law. They know that love does not mean proximity. This is a hard-earned knowing. They can love someone deeply and still disengage, set boundaries, and refuse ongoing harm. They no longer confuse compassion with endurance. They bless from afar without resentment. They understand that distance can be a form of care. They transmit calm without sedation. Their presence does not numb, it stabilizes. People feel more themselves around them, not dependent, not dazzled, not diminished. They do not dominate space. They do not drain attention. They do not hijack energy. They regulate the field simply by being coherent. This is not charisma. It is integration made visible. They are comfortable being a bridge, not a destination. They do not need followers. They are satisfied when someone outgrows them. They do not bind others to their language, their framework, or their interpretations. They point and then release. They know the danger of becoming a substitute for another's inner authority. They have learned when to charge and when to give. This is subtle, and it matters. They do not charge for truth. They charge for time, labor, containment, responsibility, impact. They give freely what liberates. They gate what requires readiness. They understand that friction is sometimes protective. This is not greed. It is ethical discernment. They trust the long arc. They are not anxious about legacy. They know seeds germinate unseen. Timing is not personal. Influence is rarely immediate. They are content to plant and walk away. They trust what moves through them more than how it appears today. They have stopped trying to convert anyone. They no longer need to persuade. They have learned awakening cannot be argued into existence. Insight cannot be forced open, and readiness is not negotiable. They speak to those who are listening. They do not chase ears. They recognize each other quietly. When the unusually mature meet, there is often a brief look, a pause, a mutual softening. No hierarchy, no posturing, no competition, just recognition. They do not need to compare scars. They know. They remain playful without becoming trivial. They laugh, not as avoidance, but as relief. Their humor disarms without humiliating, reveals without cutting, enlightens without erasing gravity. They understand that joy is not denial, it is resilience. They walk on, even when the path narrows. Perhaps this is the final mark. The unusually mature do not retreat when the crowd thins. They have already walked alone. They know solitude is not abandonment, it is refinement. And they continue, not because it is rewarded, but because it is true. I offer this not as a mirror to admire yourself in, nor a checklist to complete. I offer it as recognition. If some of this feels familiar, it is not because you have arrived. It is because you have endured honestly. And that, more than brilliance or charisma or knowledge, is what matures a being beyond the ordinary. Nothing here needs to be claimed. Nothing here needs to be proven. Walk gently. Guard what is sacred. Give freely what liberates. And trust that what you are becoming does not need consensus to be real. I have seen this before, and I recognize it now.